With David, he's mysterious and enigmatic and sublime and intimate and, whatever sexy, whatever it is, that's what the film was going to be.
I want to get into the nuts and bolts of this movie as much as we can. It's really an overwhelming thing in the best way. But first, I just want to ask about what was the genesis of the project for you? How did you get started on it, and how did it take this form that it's in?
Well, I would say the genesis was probably taking a little too much acid and seeing Pink Floyd Laserium when I was in high school.
Sure.
And I love immersive cinema. I loved my favorite film when I was a little kid in movie theaters was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I love movies. I don't like watching movies at home. I like going to the movie theaters. During the pandemic, I didn't watch movies because there's no popcorn. I was like, I don't even like, I realized I don't actually like movies. I like the cinema.
Right.
I work in nonfiction, but I have a very kind of, I think, consistent approach to it, hopefully, up to now, which has been, I don't make films sort of about the subjects. I try to make films that are the subjects, that sort of personify the subjects. If you take a documentary script and you reduce it down to its core, dialogue only, it's going to be 22 pages or something.
Right.
It's Cliff Notes to history. So what I want to offer audiences, this goes back to the kid sees in the picture, is a film not about Bob Evans, but a film that brings Bob Evans to life. And so even back then, I'd write a list, when I was coming up with a film, like, how do you describe Bob? And he's kitschy, he's funny, he's this, that. And that's what the film is. And then with David, he's mysterious and enigmatic and sublime and intimate and, whatever sexy, whatever it is, that's what the film was going to be. What ultimately, when I finished Montage of Heck, the Kurt Cobain film, which was a very linear biography, I had this epiphany that why are we using the cinema for information? If I'm going to go to the cinema to see the Beatles, and this is a great example, I went to see the Beatles IMAX. And that was all I did to get back. That was fantastic. I didn't need anyone talking. I didn't need any interviews or anything. I just was psyched to hear. When I finished Montage of Heck, I just said, IMAX has the greatest cinemas, the greatest sound systems on earth. Who has an IMAX in their? I know one guy who actually does have an IMAX in their house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was, by the way, totally mind blowing. But I just said, listen, this is just like, I personally wanted to hear my favorite musical artist in the best sound system in the world with some dazzling imagery. And so I came up with something called the IMAX Music Experience. We've been talking for about maybe 30 seconds, you and me. And that was as long as my pitch was. There was nothing else to my pitch. And a financier gave me money to do 15 of these films. And the idea was that I was going to do one a year for the next 15 years. That was 7 years ago. So at that rate, I will be 132 when I finish this year. Someone recently did the math, and it turned out that I've been working on Bowie for 15% of my life. And
oh my gosh.
So it's a little intense, but.
So roughly the movie starts with kind of the end of the Ziggy Stardust era, which for a lot of people is still like the best Bowie era. How did you decide upon, a pretty short span of actual years, but so much in terms of his musical output and kind of changing?
I started when he came really into the public conscience, when the public became aware of him. And if I may, where the footage begins, which is convenient. And I never thought that it would really begin with him and out of sort of falling from the sky.
Right.
Anyway, do you want to know how we went from the IMAX thing to where we are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here in a nutshell, I had a heart attack right at the point that I was about to start listening to Bowie. I flatlined, was in a coma, and I was shooting a pilot for Marvel at the time called Runaway.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I'm shooting a very important pilot for Marvel. I need to be on set on Monday. And the doctor goes, you're not going anywhere. And I go, no, you don't understand. And, when something like that happens, I was 47, and I started listening to Bowie. And I realized that through Bowie, I can create a roadmap for how to lead a more balanced and fulfilling creative life. And that I can leave that behind for my children that they can look at if anything ever happens to me. And so that was the original. That's how it went from 40 minutes to actually having a story. The story is not that different than any hero's journey. He's put to the test over and over and over again, but he's putting himself to the test. He's going through a series of challenges. If you want to think of it like Star Wars, Brian Eno's Yoda.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and in the original script, the way the film was going to resolve was that David and Brian would meet up and go away from each other for 15 years and reunite at David's wedding, which happened. And they decided to go make this album Outside together, which was kind of like David's return to form. So I had it kind of in this like hero's mythical journey. And once I established that as the through line, you know, I was off to the races.
You know, obviously poring over all of this footage of Bowie, like his interviews, I think are really fascinating because so much of them is him kind of maybe uncomfortable in his own skin a little bit, but also like being the persona that he is during that period of time. What was something that you were surprised to learn about the either the concert footage or the interview footage that you thought you knew about Bowie, but actually you maybe, or we all as a people kind of got wrong?
I didn't know anything about Bowie. I liked his music. That was the extent. I mean, I liked his movies. I liked Man for the Earth and Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, and I liked his music. That was my entry point. So everything was a revelation. Everything was illuminating. I had no idea that he was like this sage, that he presented himself to me in when I was in that state of mind where I was looking for some guidance. So honestly, everything was a revelation. In terms of like just brass taxes, there's you know, I found the estate providing me with access to everything. So the first day I get to the, and I know I'm going to IMAX, so I have a particular interest in 16 and 35 elements. The first day I went in there, I found a wall of 35 cans from this concert that David had shot with five 35 millimeter cameras on 2 nights, recorded 20-foot track audio by Tony Visconti. That was the holy grail. So I was very excited to have found that. There's just this geek. I mean, it was this like, but really, you know, it was like, I have to say the interviews were my favorite thing because they were so unexpected.
I can't wait to see it again. I think it is, and I hope everyone goes to see it in IMAX because it needs to be seen big and loud. And I think that's sort of like what the movie does to people is kind of just enraptures you in David Bowie. So,
you know what it is, man? You can go down the street and go hear David Bowie in 12.0. If you don't want to watch the film, just go close your eyes. That's fine. But why would you not want to hear David Bowie in 12.0 IMAX? I don't understand. I guess I understand if you don't like Bowie, but if you do like Bowie, and if you do like cinema, and you do like spectacle, and you like to be surprised, come on for this ride, because it's you know, you've seen it. It's rather unexpected. Although
Absolutely.
We've talked about it so much, we might have given an idea of what it might be, but short of that, it must be a little unexpected.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.